Steve Jobs achieved what many consider the ultimate capitalist dream. He built a tech empire from the ground up, shifting the way the world accesses information onto sleek glass screens and dying as one of the richest men on the planet. But viral accounts of his final days paint a striking contrast. Facing terminal illness, Jobs supposedly reflected that, at the door of death, all the wealth and recognition he had accumulated suddenly felt pale and meaningless. He viewed material relativity through a simple lens. If you strap a $30 digital watch to your wrist or a $300 luxury timepiece, it yields the exact same utility. It tells the exact same time. He applied the same logic to cars. You can drive a $30,000 sedan or a $300,000 sports car, but the physical distance between your driveway and your destination doesn't change. You drive the exact same road. This leaves us with a paradox. If reaching the absolute pinnacle of material achievement doesn't stop the inevitable moment the curtain drops, how do you avoid wasting the years that come before it? To answer that, we have to borrow his own framework. You can't figure out a good life by looking forward and guessing. We have to reverse engineer his path, looking backward to see how the dots connect. Step back to when Jobs was 30 years old. Following a bitter power struggle with his own board of directors, he was publicly ousted from Apple, the very company he had built from scratch in his parents' garage. It was a highly visible humiliation. Yet he later reflected that being fired was exactly what he needed. Stripping away the demand for constant success allowed him to start over. Returning to the lightness of a beginner led directly to his most creatively fertile period. He channeled that freedom into founding a new computer company called Next, pushing hardware design into darker, more sophisticated territory. This era of forced reinvention also gave him the space to acquire the animation studio Pixar and to cross paths with the woman who would become his wife. Jobs' decade of exile demonstrated that a public failure can be a prerequisite for a more meaningful victory. If you haven't found the work you truly love yet, you must keep looking. Never settle. Let's step the timeline back even further to his youth. Jobs dropped out of Reed College almost immediately. He simply couldn't justify draining his working-class parents' entire life savings for a degree that offered him no clear direction. Quitting meant losing his dorm room. He slept on the floors of his friends' rooms and survived by returning empty glass Coca-Cola bottles to collect the 5-cent deposits for food. But without mandatory classes to attend, he was free to drop in on whatever caught his eye. Following pure intuition, he sat in on a highly artistic calligraphy class. He learned about serif and sans serif typefaces and the spacing between letters. 10 years later, that single class paid out. When Jobs was designing the first Macintosh, he embedded those typographical lessons straight into the hardware, making it the first computer with beautiful, proportionally spaced fonts. Competitors quickly copied the Mac's interface. Because of that single intuitive detour, elegant typography became the aesthetic standard for every personal computer you use today. You can never predict how your current struggles or passing interests will play out in the future. You simply have to trust your gut, knowing that the dots only ever connect in hindsight. We bring the timeline forward to 2005, standing before a crowd of graduating students at Stanford University. Jobs was delivering a commencement address shortly after receiving a devastating pancreatic cancer diagnosis. He presented a radical thesis to the crowd. Death, he argued, is not a tragedy. It is life's single greatest invention. It acts as the ultimate agent of change, constantly clearing out the old to make way for the new. When you wake up every day and remember that you will die soon, the external noise falls away. The expectations of others, the pride, and the fear of failure all vanish in the face of mortality. As Jobs put it, you are already naked. There is absolutely no logical reason not to follow your heart. This chart visualizes how he ultimately traded financial metrics for a list of human essentials. Instead of tracking revenue or profit, he pointed to the 6 best doctors: sunlight, rest, diet, exercise, confidence, and friends. He closed his address by citing a farewell message printed on the back cover of a 1970s publication called The Whole Earth Catalog. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Your time on this earth is strictly limited. The only real failure isn't a drop in net worth or a public loss. It's spending your brief window of opportunity living someone else's life.